Hello and welcome everyone to Midtopia Meets. I am Marquis Nunley. I'm the studio manager and creative director here at Midtopia. We have with us today two esteemed guests. We got the Reverend Moose and my man Bobby.
Hello.
Both representing Marauder. Can y'all tell them what Marauder is right quick?
Marauder is a lot of things, but we do a lot of marketing work with artists and PR work with artists, both in the United States and a lot of artists looking to come bring their music to the United States from across the world. We also help produce events, and we do a myriad of other things. I don't know if I should dive deep into.
Because they're illegal?
Nah, just it's a lot.
Because
it'll take up a couple minutes.
You're right. Yeah.
Take up a couple minutes.
I just worry. I worry, like if the IRS is watching, you know what that's going to imply.
I thought you were going to say you just worry. That's your job there.
I do worry. We do a lot of artist marketing and event production, and we work with a bunch of different companies. We work in the music space.
Right on.
Everything's in some type of marketing or presentation or involvement manner, and we work with a number of different large companies and help them with their marketing presence down to independent artists and help them with their presence, PR, radio, online, organic media, paid media, et cetera. We actually started a 6-month online accelerator program called the Port Authority Music Export Academy. And
I was reading about that.
It's focused on non-US based industry, if you will, looking to bring their product to the States. Now, oftentimes product in the music industry is an artist, but sometimes it can be your catalog, it can be a band you manage, it can be an actual music product, a website, a program, something like that. So the program's been going on for a few years now, and Bobby and I run it together, and I'd like to think that one of us does a really good job at
it. And we just get to guess who. I like that game.
It'll be obvious by the end of this interview.
Was that something that was an initial passion for you? Was having international artists commune more on the DIY circuit, or was that something that just kind of accidentally popped up as you were progressing through your career?
I found through my own career, and I've been doing this now for like 25 years or something like that, but through my own career, you end up, I would always kind of gravitate towards people that needed more help than others, right? Like it would be like, okay, well, this one's going to be a superstar and this one's going to, is amazing, but it's going to grind it out. I'd be like, well, this one's cooler and I want to, wouldn't that be neat to be able to help get more cool things exposure? And so
nice.
I think that with a lot of the international stuff, I kind of looked at it like, this is just really cool. And if more people saw it, then they would also think it's really cool. And you can build from there. And so when you start working with more people that are similar, you start seeing more of the differences between it. So it's as an American, it's very easy to be able to say, okay, well, this artist is from Mexico City and this one's from Helsinki, and they're both not from here, so we have to take the same strategy. And the reality is completely different challenges, completely different resources, struggles, everything else like that.
Certainly.
And I think from an American standpoint, the same thing is true here. I mean, obviously, we're in Wichita, right? So it's there's a difference between Wichita and Omaha.
Absolutely.
There's a difference between Wichita and Seattle.
Certainly.
There's a difference between Wichita and New York City. And so I think people need to sort of think not just a matter of I'm from here, or I went to school here, or I built a band here, or this is where I went to shows, or whatever it is. It's also along the lines of like, who are the different connectors that they have relationships with, who's going to be their mentors, who's going to be their predecessors, who's going to be able to help bring them along with them, or who do they have exposure to?
Can help build the network for the artist.
Yeah. Some of that's professional, some of it's cultural, some of it's economic, right? All these different things that you have to factor in.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's like I saw a lot of that from an international perspective, where to be like, okay, well, this might be a Scandinavian country versus this might be, an Asian country, or whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
But then the closer you look, the more granular it gets.
Surely.
And it makes it a little bit easier, if you will, to kind of identify the nuances. So this Export Academy that we have been running has been really about teaching non-American professionals the nuances of working within the American market, which is a massive market, the biggest in the world, right?
Certainly, yeah.
Biggest music market in the world.
Certainly.
And it's so much easier to just say it's the U.S., but the reality is Kansas is different than Tennessee, which is different than New York, which is different than Washington. And so you can't just look at it as like going to go on an American tour or going to release a record and promote it in the States or
Right.
whatever the aspect is. So like this has been a real big passion of ours, is to be able to help kind of minimize those barriers, because it is such a difficult industry to do anything in.
Absolutely.
And just trying to give people at least like some helpful information that makes it more attainable.
Absolutely.
I feel like this is an industry of obstacles. Even if everybody else is helping you out, even if everyone's lifting you,
with good luck, it's a lot of obstacles. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So it's the more informed you can be, the less mistakes you have to learn from. Well, I should say, you're always going to make mistakes. You're always going to learn from them.
Look forward to it.
But maybe you can avoid others and
Certainly
make your own mistakes.
That's an amazing initiative, and like I would have no idea that that's something that was needed. Like, how many of those types of ideas come about in your career? Where like, because I know like in 2006 you won an award for most likely to change the industry, and is there any eureka moments that happen that say, hey, this is how I'm doing that, or is there a plan behind what you do with that? Because you've been a part of several movements within the industry. Positive movements in the industry that focus on artist fairness, equality, and that type of thing. And so, like, are those accolades and achievements that you've made within your career, have they spurred you on to do more, or have they just been like, oh, I got this thing, okay, cool, got to get to the next thing, got to get to work?
Both is probably the right answer, right? Because it's like, to some degree, it's positive reinforcement, right? Like,
Sure.
Hey, look what I got away with. And because that is what it is.
It is, yeah.
Everybody has crazy, far-fetched ideas.
Absolutely.
Right? And when the crazy, far-fetched ideas become practical, reasonable, change motivators, then all of a sudden they're less crazy and they're more obvious. And so I think it's a matter of finding that balance between what is far-fetched and unreasonable versus what is far-fetched and reasonable. So if I said, hey, I want to build a rocket to go to the moon, well, I know there are rockets that go to the moon.
Yeah.
I can't build it. But the technology is there and everything else that's there. If I said I wanted to build a rocket and go to Saturn, that's
another pair of pants.
Yeah. I can't do either of those things, by the way. But I think it's just a matter of being able to say, like, okay, well, what's reasonable? Something I'm incredibly proud of is when we started Marauder as a company, we made the decision. My partners and I made the decision we were going to pay our interns. Period. And it was more, I think, out of a sense of like, well, this is just wrong. Right, it's just wrong, and the benefits that came from it were, we didn't do it for the benefits, but we saw these benefits. We had an incredibly diverse array of not just applicants, but of actual interns. We were more mindful as a staff as far as the work that we gave them.
Beautiful.
When interns weren't working out, we made changes when you had to make changes. Versus just everybody suffering and being like, show up and waste 8 hours of your day. And we've also been able to watch our interns be able to change their schedules in ways that they would otherwise not be able to accommodate an unpaid internship to be able to get experience in the industry.
Sure.
Well, one of the things, and I'm incredibly proud of this, that we had done when we had pitched to produce a music conference for the largest trade organization for independent record labels, A2IM, we had pitched as part of our program that we wanted to pay conference staff, what would otherwise be volunteers. And we had pitched it to them as, essentially, this is in line with your mandate to be to have artists be properly compensated for the work that they're doing, and we think it's fair for the industry to be properly compensated, even those that would be previously at a volunteer rate. And they looked at it and they were like, we think this is in line with what we want to do. So it's like we were able to take what we were doing as a company and say, we don't think that people should be working for free. And we were able to kind of impose that upon one of our clients. And
That's
the client was just like, yeah, let's look at the budget. Let's see what this means. It doesn't mean the end of the world for our budget.
Boom.
And I don't remember the exact numbers, but we had a massive, visibly different staff than any other event. And when we did the post-event survey, I think it was something like 72% of the staff that we had either wouldn't or couldn't have taken on the role if it weren't paid.
Wow.
So when you think of these barriers to entry, we're not talking about life-changing career opportunities until it is.
Gotcha.
And so you don't know what
you don't know how much
what's the person you're going to meet? What's the opportunity you're going to have? Whose hand are you going to shake? All of these things that, you can take for granted because you have the ability to work for free for a week, or you have the ability to work for free for 3 days out of the semester, or whatever it is that you can do. Not everybody has that ability. And more so.
In fact, most people don't.
Sure. But I think more so, it's like the artistic industries work on a debit system, right? It's like you have to lose money to potentially earn revenue and credibility.
Right.
And that's so theoretically, from a creator standpoint, you have to lose money and be the broke artist.
Yeah.
From a working standpoint, you have to work for free and, earn your dues.
Wow.
Right? From a development standpoint, you have to be able to show what you're worth and, work for free and do all the other things that you can do because it's there for the community and all these other things. So it's like you have an entire industry that's built off of essentially more or less taking advantage of people.
I've never thought about it like that.
And so it's like it's you're already working backwards as to get to any level of professionalism.
Right. Yeah.
Like some people are paying off student loans. This is an industry where you're paying off the debit to the debt to the debt to the actual like you are accumulating a different type of loan.
Wow.
So how do you do that?
Never thought about that.
It's got to come from somewhere.
Every time. That's making the decision to pay the people first. Like there was no further intention other than just doing the right thing, and it happened to yield good results for the event.
And now they pay everyone for any of their events.
And that was my first
you
big
changed the
gig out of
paradigm
college.
there.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, man.
That wasn't it?
Yeah, I graduated college, talked to you like, what the hell do I do in this industry? Like, work at this event we're producing. Got paid. My first paid gig.
Boom.
Yeah, but what'd you get paid? Like a couple $100, right? Like it wasn't life-changing, but it was
No,
enough.
but enough to make
something.
it worth it. Also,
Yeah.
shake hands, meet people, just see the industry in action.
And you weren't going to
outstanding.
work at whatever your other job was at that time. So it's like it made it easier. Or maybe you weren't even working another job. Like
I wasn't. I literally just moved to New York, I think 2 weeks before. And I popped over that job, made some extra bucks.
That's amazing. Speaking of paradigm shifting, so like in this landscape, post Cambridge Analytica, working in marketing, how do you convince artists that marketing isn't predatory? How do you tell artists that, hey, marketing isn't you categorizing and just putting people in boxes and saying, hey, like this thing or don't? How do you convince artists that marketing is something that is an actual shared relationship between consumer and artist or consumer and producer?
I think especially when it comes to artists and music in general, it's easier than just your regular old business because at the core of it, the fans have to like you as a person. So you can have the best data in the world. You can get the best audience data ever, but it doesn't matter if you're a piece of shit. But if you look at it from the have fun with it perspective first, be someone that people actually want to listen to. Now that's not going to solve the problem of the audience just going to come because you do have to find the audience.
Sure.
Your music's only as good as you're able to get it out there. So there is a little bit of the data part of it where you have to actually go in and find out who the audience is. But especially in music, I feel like a lot less focused on the little details, the what did you eat for lunch last week? Or did you shop for a dress online a couple weeks ago? Here's another dress. I think it's more fun and more open to the kind of creative freedom.
Gotcha. It's less transactional and it's more, I'm building a rapport.
Yeah, because the brand, at the end of the day, the brand is the musician. The brand is the artist.
Absolutely.
Do I like this person? Do I like their music? Do I like them outside of their music? This music can be great. They can be one of the worst people in the world. I don't really want to.
We have plenty of examples.
Exactly.
Have you run into any problems with artists like giving you pushback on any ideas you've had for them for marketing where they're like, oh, you're trying to make me into somebody that is bad for my fans. You're making me betray my integrity.
I don't think our role is to really goad somebody into following a system or to give them a plan that doesn't work for them. I think our role is really to take what they're already doing and kind of, add fuel to that fire.
Yeah.
And because everybody has their own voice and their own flavor, it's really about finding things that work with them. Like the way you asked the question was kind of negative. Like you kind of start with marketing is bad, but what if it weren't? But I think
that might be my past bias because I had to be convinced of it,
But I mean, I think that marketing is there's different ways of being able to look at it, and I think we all look at ourselves. For example, you got up this morning, you put on that shirt.
Yeah.
Well, why did you put on that shirt instead of a lime green shirt that has flowers all over it, right? Because you might be sitting here and you're like, I don't want to be that lime green flower shirt guy, right? Like, so it's like something in the back of your head is like, this is how I want people to perceive me. This is how I want to be
today. Yeah, yeah.
And so when you're thinking marketing, it might be perhaps not what am I going to wear, but it's like, do I want people to think that I'm quiet and thoughtful or loud and political or, like you're just kind of thinking about what you're pushing forward. And, social media is very easy for us to kind of drill down and be like, this is all marketing is because it's so commonplace. But the reality is it's all the other things. It's like a band photo, right? It's the artwork. It is the length of an ad campaign. It is, are you going to put flyers together? Are you going to make a song that might sound good on the radio? Are you going to make a song that might sound good on playlists? How are you going to get your song on the playlist? All these things are little decisions that you have to make that are about what type of perception you want to put out and what you want to do to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And so like if you wake up in the morning and you go down to the street corner with a sign on a big giant wooden pole and you're standing on the corner, whatever that sign says was a decision you made.
Right.
Or you could decide not to be the guy on the corner with a pole, in which case less people are going to see you. So if you're a musician, somewhere in between there is probably your career decision of maybe you don't want to be the crazy person with a sign on a pole, but you do want people to stop and look at you and pay attention to your art. And so what are you going to do to that intentionality to be able to get people to look at you? And so the question is, do I need to get a haircut? Do I need to change my style? Do I need to get a better photographer? Do I need to... I don't know. Bruce Springsteen made a career off of, blue jeans and a t-shirt.
It happened, yeah.
But that was a decision.
That was a full decision and a commitment.
Right. At the same time, Tina Turner made a career off of shimmery dresses. That was a decision. She wasn't t-shirt and jeans. So like, these are thoughts that people have put to themselves at some point that Billie Eilish is wearing sweatshirts and Taylor Swift is not. Right. But like somehow you have to be able to put those thoughts to action. And ideally, from an artistic standpoint, it will represent who you are because people are genuinely interested in who you are. And from a commercial standpoint, it will help reinforce the product. And I think that's what people have a difficulty with as from an artist, especially a DIY side, is considering themselves a product. But it's like a product doesn't mean you need to be on the shelves. right? It just means that you're asking for somebody to take some type of
That's just what's been produced.
action. Yeah. I'm producing a show. I'm producing a song. I'm producing, an album, whatever it is. Like it's a thing that you are asking for somebody else's investment in. So it is a transactional relationship in that regard. You just want it to be able to touch them in a way that is more than just, here's my dollar, give me my widget.
I love it.
And to kind of go back to the Cambridge Analytica part of it all,
For sure.
I think how it's in the music world stands apart is audiences know what they're getting into when they sign up for a newsletter or when they.
There's a lot more straightforwardness with, I have music for you to purchase, and that's all. That's the only thing I need you to purchase is this music. There might be some merch, but like the main thing is, hi, I'm this artist and I have these things on my heart that I want to share with the world. Does the world want to hear it? Let's find out.
Yeah, exactly. And the fans, they're ready to accept it. It's rare where I come across, an ad for an artist in my feed. I'm like, how did they know I was listening to Lady Gaga like 3 weeks ago?
They figured out my algorithm real. They've got me down pat. There's like 3 or 4 artists I discover a week from just sponsored ads. I'm like, yeah, y'all got me.
Yeah, but you can trace
And
back.
I'm cool with it. Like that. I'm like, yeah, I like all of these artists.
And you can
It's
trace.
sometimes I wish I could tell them what to advertise to me. I'd be like, hey, here's a list of things I will buy if you show me the good versions of them. There's been times I've seen dinosaur ads. I've just been like, yeah, I want to buy that dinosaur toy.
I'd rather have that than U2 on my iPod or Drake on my Spotify or whatever it is that's being forced
They're gonna force
prints
that
in
on
my
me today.
newspaper, right? Like I'd rather have something that's custom to me, but it's all the other privacy things and elements of that
Certainly.
are fair to question and should be questioned. I mean, I think privacy is a reasonable thing to be able to ask for and expect. So there's about finding that balance. There's opt-in and then there's more shady versions of it, right? So like that's what you're talking about when you're talking about like the Cambridge analytical stuff is it's like if an artist puts a piece of paper on their merch booth and says, please sign up for our mailing list, you're willingly going there. There's no difference between that and going online and doing the same thing. But it's kind of weird when you're shopping for underwear and the next thing you know, every single website you visit has underwear ads on it.
Yeah.
Right. That's a little bit different. I see what you're saying. Right on. So in working in marketing over the decades, what is your advice to DIY artists who are hitting that ceiling of, I'm ready, I'm doing so much, I need to write my music, I need to focus on the actual art. Where do they say, hey, how I need to hire professional services for the marketing aspect?
I think that there's this misnomer, if you will, that you need to hire for help for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the misnomer that you are expected or should be able to do it all yourself, right? So it's like nobody's asking you to review your record contracts yourself. You'd be a fool if you didn't hire an attorney. So maybe it would benefit you to hire somebody who is a strong writer / professional writer to write your bio. Perhaps you're really good at taking pictures, but maybe it would benefit you to hire a photographer to take your band photo. I think it's a matter of just trying to find out what you are adept at doing, what you enjoy doing, what you don't have the bandwidth for, and then filling those gaps with what you have the ability to pay for. I mean, look, if money is no option whatsoever, you can't just buy a team to go build you a artistic career, right? Like you still have to be able to make the music and the craft and have it all come together. I mean, there's certainly studio tricks and everything else that can be done, but ultimately it's your vision as an artist that has to come together. And so it's like it's a collaborative thing, whether you're paying for help, whether you're asking for help, whether you're doing research online, whether you're doing a million different things yourself. There's all these different elements that have to come together. So I think that the question of like, when do you hire help? It's the answer is when you need it. Like that's what it is.
So in marketing, you've dealt with social media and everything that entails. Are there any tips and tricks within the marketing of social media that you can hand out right now to help any DIY artists further their career?
Within social media, I there comes a point where every artist and just anyone with a public profile has to make the decision: do they want their personal profile to also be the main profile their fans follow, or do they want to separate the two? And I think making that decision early on really helps because there's a lot of artists that have a couple thousand followers on their Instagram page, but they're all people from high school and college that they know.
Right.
I think having a separate Instagram profile for the artist project is probably the best move.
Yeah.
So we can kind of keep your friends separate from the fans, but also, it kind of brings it to the authenticity of it.
Sure.
Is your second profile, is your public artist profile, is that you, or is it like a team kind of posting on your behalf? One thing I always think about is, you see this all the time. There's a profile for a band or an artist, and they have their own voice. They kind of have an established, this is me, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And then they release a clearly sponsored post, or like they're part of a festival or something, and they're like, so stoked to be going on tour with so and so, and it's like that doesn't sound like you. I think about that all the time, and maybe it's just the marketing brain in me because I'm more in tune to this than the regular person.
Sure.
But I hate that. Like it just needs to. No matter what it is, I don't want it to sound like copyrighted.
Right.
Like someone wrote it across the country. Like, here, post this with this language.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on whether artists should be just always uploading and releasing content, whether it's music or social media posts or videos or wrap up stuff? Like, do you think there should be like you're posting every 2 days, every 3 days? Is it genre specific even?
Every time I think of like one right answer, I think of an exception. Like I'm thinking like of the Bo Burnhams of the world.
Sure.
He only posts when he has something coming out. Other than that, you don't see him. And then I'm thinking about
Jay-Z or Eminem.
Like King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, where that's like every other day is a new song or a new album.
I don't know them that well, but yeah. I don't think there's a good one answer fits all. I guess it all really depends on the individual artist or project as a brand.
Yeah.
And also, most importantly, something that doesn't, burn someone out, because it's pretty obvious when people get burnt out, especially on social media to fans when making content. I think kind of like having some sort of a constant presence online in the world, and it doesn't have to be like well thought out. Okay, I'm going to post on Monday, Wednesday, Friday every day.
Yeah.
Just kind of like between album cycles, especially,
Sure.
is a huge deal to show that you are a real person in the world and you're doing things to make people remember you.
Can I change a word, what you said? Instead of having a constant presence, I would say have a consistent presence. So it doesn't necessarily need to be all the time, but it just needs to be thoughtful, and there has to be a reason behind it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like artists I really like, they just kind of post themselves. They're just doing their own thing. Then when an album comes out, they just kind of like, or when they have singles coming out, they just kind of insert it into their regular posting, like, oh, hey, I've also got this single out. And these are pretty, these are artists that definitely aren't small.
Sure.
By any means. They're not the biggest artists in the world, but they really, they perfectly work their music, marketing their music in a way that doesn't seem too like, oh, this was all planned out.
It works in their life.
It does. And it might be all planned out. Like there might be a spreadsheet, like a master plan of how it gets posted. But it really doesn't come across that way. And I feel like, my favorite musician, just chilling and, they released music. Of course I'm going to listen.
Right.
I don't really know how to explain it.
Are there avenues outside of social media that you've explored in marketing that aren't, traditional radio, television programming type things?
First thing that comes to my mind is at the show. Because so many people discover artists at the show, whether it's an opener or, my friend had an extra ticket. Yeah, I'm free tonight. I'm going to go to the show. Oh, this band's music is great. How do I find them? So some kind of like on-site activation, doesn't have to be anything crazy. And by activation, I mean like something that's outside of obviously playing on stage
Sure.
to like get your brand
Sure.
in this game.
Something that an action that will encourage some type of interaction with the brand, whether that's coming up to a show or going to buy an album or
subscribe to a newsletter.
Yeah.
Scan this QR code, subscribe to a newsletter. A lot of people do donations, on stage, like, hey, pull out your phone and text this number to this number. And then that A is a donation for a good cause, just looks good. And B gets kind of that phone number in the system. And the person opts in to receive, like, I want to receive more text from this artist. That's kind of an example. That's a little higher level than the more DIY stuff.
Yeah,
but that's like the top example on my head.
But that's just something else. There are other ways of doing it like that.
Yeah, at the very least, very least, even just shout out your like Instagram name on stage. The basic thing is you want to give people another avenue to remember you exist in a couple days when after the show. Like scrolling on my Instagram, like, oh yeah, I love this band. I saw them a couple days ago. I'll listen to more music. That's the most important thing, is that next step.
Hoping someone remembers the thing, because there's a lot of content available and there's so much that's being flooded out. And honestly, I know I've shied away from discovering new music just because there's so much new music and it gets intimidating to try and, discover new music and dig in and try to weave out, what you want to hear. And in marketing, how do you deal with that deluge of content that has been, the last 10 years of media?
I think to answer your question, you kind of have to dig to what you want the end result to be. So, for example, because music is largely consumed on streaming platforms, marketing is how do I get somebody to stream my song on a platform, which really means how do I get the streaming platform to pay attention to my song, because the way the algorithms are written, it's top down fed, right? Like it's not bottom up fed. It's not. It's not about this one song from somebody in Louisiana is somebody's brother played it. Now we're going to recommend it to their uncle, and now they're going to recommend it to the uncle's coworkers, and now it just doesn't work like that, right? Like it's like, here's the new megastar, and here's the new megastar's collaboration, and here's some other stuff that is already being funded in some way or another.
Sure.
And if you're looking for discovery, you have to have the intentionality of either being friends with that band or being in the scene or being on their mailing list or taking the first step to be able to kind of initiate that relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that the discovery system that we as consumers have been presented is quite bluntly a bit of an industry lie that says look at all of this at your disposal. This is the world is your opportunity. You could listen to anything, but the reality is it's mostly hidden, and it's like from an artist standpoint, I don't necessarily understand the incentive to wanting to throw something into the black hole that is these platforms that are largely self-fulfilling prophecies. And so to answer your question from a marketing perspective, I think you have to take the mindset that the system is broken. So the strategy can't be, how do I get what they have? The strategy has to be, what is it I can do and how do I get there? Right? So it's like that.
Switching your perspective in the approach.
Right. Like if your strategy is to, I don't know, get on Rap Caviar, right? Well, how do you do that? Well, you get to the person that programs Rap Caviar. Done.
How you do?
That's how you do it, right? Well, what else do I do? Oh, all the other stuff, right? That's
all the other stuff.
That's how you do it, okay? But what are the other options besides getting on the number one playlist in the world?
Right.
Well, that should be the question you're asking yourself. Not how do I open up for Beyonce or Taylor Swift or the Rolling Stones or whomever it might be. The question is, how do I get my first show? how do I get somebody to book me? How do I get my friends and family to show up for me? How do I get somebody I don't know to show up for me? How do I get somebody I don't know to discover my song? How do I get somebody in a town I want to tour in to discover my song? And then you have to be able to find those answers to those questions. I think that is a large part of what marketing strategy isn't about getting you on playlists, getting you on the radio, getting you on social media. It's about finding the right home for what you are doing and really amplifying that work in a way that reflects the creative process and the value
I was about to say,
behind
it's like
it.
you're breaking down the process of, I want to achieve this thing. It's not just, set a goal, achieve, set a goal, achieve. It's here are all the ideas that can go into that thing. What can I do?
Yeah.
Which one of those is most feasible?
Like, look, theoretically, if you go to, I don't know, any NBA game, right? They have the half-court shot, right? Thing. Anybody could be picked and possibly make that shot.
Right.
Right? You go to see a band in concert and they're going to be like, hey, who wants to come up here and sing backing vocals or play the guitar part or something? Anybody that has a moderate ability to carry a tune or play a guitar could possibly be able to do it.
Sure.
So yeah, you did the half-court shot or you played on the, the main stage at the festival. But like, that didn't mean that you had the talent to do that again, or the skills, or the connections, or the resources, or the training, or any of these types of things. So it's like, what takes you from being the hobbyist, if you will, to the professional? And I will tell you, as somebody who's done this for my entire career, I don't know. But like, but I know there's a lot of things that you could do that everyone else did that are wrong. So it's like you have to be able to kind of create your path and solve for your specific problems. And more specifically than that, you have to identify realistic, tangible goals that make sense for you.
Realistic and tangible. I cannot emphasize that part enough. Because we are some ideating people,
but also dream big, right? Like, don't set your ceiling too low. Like,
don't kill yourself off now.
Yeah, you can open up for Beyonce, you can open up for Taylor Swift, but like, what are the steps that are going to get you there? Yeah. And do you have a plan B? If your entire plan is to be a professional ball player in whatever sport it is you like, well, cool. Maybe you take a marketing class in case that doesn't
Just
work.
In
and
case. You can work around
do licensing and logos and legal work and all these other things that you can still be involved. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of, and especially from a professional perspective, my intentionality was never to be like, the person with like the guitar strapped down and the amplifiers behind them. I never wanted to do that, but I didn't necessarily think I wanted to do this either. Right? Like, it was sort of I really enjoy it, and I didn't necessarily identify it as a career goal. But if somebody else can say, I really like working with bands, and I really like being able to kind of problem solve, and I like being able to come up with cool ideas and be involved and maybe behind the scenes. Like, if they can see this conversation and say, like, that's a potential career option for me, well, cool. Let's do it. There's plenty of room.
I love that. And that's what we're trying to do, is like, it's not just the talent on the stage or in front of the camera. It's the camera operators, it's the marketing specialists, it's the tour managers, it's, everyone that works on the outside of, the front facing part that makes that whole system come together. And I appreciate y'all coming here to help us do that. When you want, just getting seats filled, just getting people in the building for your show, what are some like the basic principles you operate on?
Well, one of the easiest things you can do is actually help other people help you. So having a photo that is strong and works in different orientations, having a bio that is direct and succinct, having music ready and available, videos ready and available, and making sure that when you're booking these shows that the people that are booking them have that information, because they want people in the room.
Sure.
And wouldn't it be a lot easier to have the person who is actually based in that town talking to people in that town about this band that they're investing in?
Yeah.
Hey, here's something, click play and you'll like it, and then please come to the show. That's a lot easier than the person from out of town trying to connect with those people. So it's like the easiest thing you can do is just make it easier for other people to help you.
Sure.
And be organized and ready and not wait for people to ask for that information. If you play most venues, I know, once you play once, your bio and your links are already in their system. So you play it again and it's like, oh, that bio's 3 years old. Well, that's on you, dude. like,
It's like that's what's provided. That's what's here.
Yeah. Yeah. So make it easier for them to do their job for you.
How do you tailor your approaches to the different calls to action that the consumer gets from, an artist? Because, an artist has music that they want you to listen to. They have merch they want you to buy. They have shows they want you to go to. What are some of the ways in which you change your approach depending on what thing you're wanting to market between the artist and the fans?
This is where marketing becomes a bit more complex, right? Because you can talk about things like pixels, and you can talk about mailing lists, and you can talk about acquisitions, and
My God.
all these other types of things. But I think any type of marketing that you do, you should have an end goal in mind, right? So if your end goal is, I need somebody to click play on this song, then you need to take as few steps as possible between the eyeball to the click. If your end goal is, I need somebody to think of my record label when they think of cool, then you need to make sure that your record label is where cool things are, right? If your end goal is, I need somebody to buy a ticket, then you need to make sure that somebody who is ready or thinking about buying a ticket has you in front of them when they're at that moment, whether it's because your song is playing or because it's Thursday night at 7 p.m. or whatever the case might be, right? So you have to be mindful of that aspect. And I think that when people think marketing, it's very easy to think of like just Budweiser everywhere, right? So it's like when Budweiser sponsors a giant race, they're not selling that amount of money in beer off of whatever they spent for that sponsorship, right? They're doing it so when somebody goes to the store, they're thinking in the back of their head, that's the brand I need to buy, right? Like it reinforces something.
Gotcha.
When Chevrolet has ads on all year round telling you about the sale they're having, because you're not buying a car all year. You're buying a car like once every several years. And so when that happens, something in your brain needs to be like, oh yeah, that's Chevy. Maybe they're having a sale this week, right? So you need to be able to think about what it is that you're trying to get. From an artist standpoint,
that's crazy.
I think that there are a lot of opportunities for you to have other people do that message. If your fans can buy a t-shirt, then your fans who are cool can help show other people that you're cool. But the thing about it is, and this is the silliest thing, we're in a social media world. Everybody's click that link and make sure to follow, which you should do. And then
Every
of course
time.
the live version of that is, hey, we've got merch. Please buy a t-shirt. It'll help us get to our show tomorrow night. That's 10 hours away.
Yep.
That's all you got to
That's
do.
all you gotta do.
Just say it. People will go up to the merch booth. The lead singer, who's usually the one that most people want to hang out with. Put your lead singer at the merch booth after the show. Don't, that's the easiest way.
Tips and tricks.
If somebody in the band is hot, put them at the merch booth. Look, whatever you got to do that you're comfortable with, do it. And so it's like, I think that you can be able to take advantage of these things, and social media is a lot easier for people to share stuff that they like.
Sure.
And some people are very open with their fans, and they say, hey, listen, this is my first single. The way the algorithm works is the more people that share it, the more likely it is going to climb. If you could do me one favor, I won't ask it for every other single. Just click this button and click share or click pre-save or whatever it is that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the fans will be like, I'm going to take action on this. I like this person. I'm going to support it. Like the UK always has a single run up the charts over the holidays. It doesn't necessarily make sense.
Sure.
But it's like the fans go out of their way to do
Yeah.
something. And so you just have to be, mindful of what it is you're asking for and what it is you want people to do. And then, of course, make sure that the steps you're taking are there. But I don't believe in logo for the sake of logo.
Surely.
There needs to be a reason.
Purpose and intention.
And I also think that people are very shy to invest money, but they don't put the same value on their time. And so whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be able to think in terms of a budget. It might be a time budget, it might be an economic budget, but you need to be able to think budget, and you need to be able to say, if I'm creating stickers, it's going to cost me this much money. If I'm going to be posting on social media for 4 hours a day for the next 6 years, it's going to cost me this much time.
Yeah.
One way or the other, it's part of your strategy.
It's gonna cost something. Yeah.
So figure that into your system of what is it you have. You might not have time, but you have money. Or you might not have money, but you got plenty of time. So figure out what you can do within that threshold.
A common practice in all of marketing is to build like audience profiles, which essentially is like building a specific persona around what could be a real life human being.
Gotcha.
Because, you know, at kind of like the base level, a lot of it is like, I want to put all my music to the teens of the world.
Okay,
Great.
see it.
Who are
Right.
they? So like putting like an actual like name, age, tax bracket, even.
Like
There's a better word for that than tax bracket. Income.
Sure.
Their listening habits, how they get their news, is a common thing across all marketing. For music, that could look like, Mary marketing. She discovers new music because she listens to public radio every morning on her commute to work. Mary marketing is in her mid-30s and has 2 kids, doesn't really have time to go to shows, but just loves listening to music, loves supporting local public radio. Thinking about Mary marketing, how would a band get whatever they're trying to get across to Mary marketing? Is it to get their song in front of Mary? Is it to get Mary to actually hire a babysitter for the night and go to the show? That's a very common practice, and especially music,
Sure.
to think outside of the fan, to think of like an industry person as your audience. The program manager at a radio station, they want to play your music. Someone who's in charge of a very small playlist that has like a very dedicated listener base, that's a potential audience base. A labor representative.
They're tough questions to answer. They're
Absolutely.
really tough questions to answer as an artist, because especially in the earlier stages of creation, right? You know, I'm writing a song. Maybe your thought process isn't, I'm going to be a studio producer and I'm going to, you know, put some beats out there and this is going to blow up. Maybe your thought process is, I really like making music and this sounds cool. And if I upload it, other people might think this sounds cool. That's plenty.
That's right.
So being able to think of that from like, who's my audience? Well, cool people are my audience, right? Well, okay. Well, cool people that like what? You know, it's like you have to start thinking about it. But not everybody has to think about it that way.
Certainly.
And so I think it's important to not necessarily get so stuck in what we're saying right here from a marketing perspective that it inhibits your ability to actually create the music. Create whatever music you want to make.
Please do.
Push it out there however you want to push it out there. And if there is a time where you're thinking to yourself, I want to do more with this, then maybe some of the things we're saying can be incorporated in your plan, and you can take a step back, or a friend can take a step back and say, I know you think your audience is 38-year-olds. I think your audience is 12-year-olds, right? You know, like, and like let them come back and give
Actually
you some
engage with it a bit. Like,
yeah. You know, like, hey, maybe you're making music for blue collar working class instead of hoity-toity college kids. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Like,
who knows? Yeah.
like figure it out. And your demographics aren't necessarily always in line with what you want your demographics to be.
Certainly.
So sometimes you can sit there and be like, yeah, my audience is all hot ladies. And you're like, but only guys show up. So
What do you do with that?
well, you got to
work
figure
with
out what it is that you're doing and whether you want to change or whether you want to cater towards. And I think that's part of what we're really discussing here is just kind of being mindful of the different steps that you have the opportunity to take. It doesn't mean you need to do any of these things as an artist.
Right.
Make art. Make as much art as you want. Make it however you want. Put it out there however you want.
Absolutely.
But if you're looking to be able to monetize your art and make it more of a commercial opportunity, then think about it in the same way you would think about putting a box of cereal on the shelf and you know, or selling a car or whatever it is. And as crass as that might sound, the processes aren't that different.
Well, I think that'll be it for this session. I appreciate y'all coming on, man. Y'all have been amazing. I've been reading up on what Marauder is doing, and we partnered with Marauder as a part of Midtopia, and I will be personally using your services in the future. And we thank y'all for coming on today. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Moose, we got Bobby from Marauder.
We got Marquis.
We got me. Woo! Yeah.